Good morning, guys. It's Miss Plum. Today you're going to be doing another lesson. Before you get started, though, you need your textbook, you need your pencil, and you need this assignment, number 6, note-taking skills. It's going to be section 2. You've done section 1 already. Okay, so this should look familiar. On your worksheet, you have 4 sections. This yellow bar tells you what pages you're going to be looking for. This blue bar is where you're going to be writing your main ideas. And you remember your main ideas, that's where you're going to write your headings and your vocabulary words as you go through the chapter. The details, that is going to be where you put what is important about those main ideas that you wrote over here. And then don't forget about this red one. Do not forget about that one. That is for you to think outside the box. As you are learning all these things as you go down, what other thoughts do you have? Okay, what questions do you have about as you read? As you read, you should, if you're actually reading to learn, then you're going to have more thoughts about your reading. So put those here. I don't need it to be full, just 2 bullet points or 3 bullet points per side of the paper. Okay, so today the topic, well, what you're supposed to be doing, your skill, is a note-taking skill. And the paper I have given you is going to prepare you for the notes. So what we're going to do the blue part first. And we're just going to skim through the pages of the book. You're starting on page 12. You're just going to skim through and you're going to write down any words you see that are highlighted. Not this part up here, but like this right here. Government systems. I already wrote that here. Next, number 2. And don't write the details yet. Just stick to the main ideas. Get this all prepared. Next, you see unitary system. Write that here. You don't need to write this vocabulary word again because you already wrote it. Number 3, you're going to write the next word you see red is federal system. Put that here in number 3. And your vocabulary word, federal system, you just wrote that. We have another vocabulary word down here, confederacy. Put that here in number 4. Okay, moving on to page 13 now. I've given you this one, constitutions and government. That went here. Then you have a vocabulary word, constitution. Put that here in number 6. Then you skim. You have another vocabulary word, constitutional government. That's here already in number 7 for you. Then you skim. We got some red incomplete guides. That's going to go in number 8. Skim. Number 9 is a statement of goals. This red part right here. And last but not least, skim. You have your blue word preamble. That's going to go right here. So you should be done with number 10 by now. If you need to pause and catch up, go ahead and do that. Moving on. Okay, we have one blank left to fill in, number 11, page 14. Skim. Well, we're on page, this is page 14, it doesn't say that though. Okay, your first thing you run into is a framework for government. So that goes down here in number 11. Now, flip over your paper and continue. Number 12 and number 13 I put there, but number 12, the highest law, we put that there because it's red. Then if you skim, you got constitutional law next, so that went there. Now, keep skimming. Politics and government, that's big. Big blue letters. That's going to go here in number 14. Politics, blue word, number 15. Skim. Seeking government benefits is red. 16. Turn the page. We're on page 15. So starting right here. Skim, 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 skim. Oh, here we go. Importance of politics goes here, number 17. Skim, skim, skim. Special interests. That goes on the next one, which is number 18. Skim, 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 skim. The Federalist. It's in black, small black letters. I already put that here for you. Turn the page. Page 16. We're down here now. Governing in a complex world. Big blue words. That goes here. Okay, good. Skim, 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 skim. Major inequalities among states. Red words. That goes here, number 21. Skim, 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 skim. Industrialized nations is in blue. That goes in number 22. Skim. Developing nations. Blue words. That goes in number 23. We are almost done with this, getting this ready. Growing interdependence. Big red letters. Number 24. Skim. I'm not seeing any blue words or black words in this area, but we got this right here. Non-state international groups. That goes in your last box. And then there's nothing else on, this is page 17. There's no other words on here. This is all just normal reading. No blue or black or red. Alrighty, now we're going to jump into our green column here, details. And we're going to read through and pick out the important things about each of these main ideas that you put down. You should have the blue column, or the formerly blue column, the main ideas all filled in on your paper at this point. I'm just going to talk you through it so you can listen and write. I'm not gonna put the answers over here. Just listen. Okay. So let's go ahead and start reading. We're gonna read this whole section together. Starting with key terms. This is what you know you need to look for. And you've already written all these down at some point, so we can skip over those. Let's look at our find out section. This is what you're gonna look for as you read, because it's kind of a preview, something to set you up for success. What are the similarities and differences between a unitary government and a federal government system? So those two words, remember those. And then what are the main purposes of a constitution? Why do we have a constitution? What purpose does it serve? Okay, understanding concepts, global perspectives. The United States Constitution is the oldest written constitution still in use. What does this say about the development of a belief in popular sovereignty? So we're going to come back to that, but that's a question you can think about before we start. Now, let's go to our cover story. This is going to get you interested in, hopefully, in the rest of the section. Debates rage on. Richmond, Virginia, 1788. So before you even go on, 1788, I can already tell you that they were working on the Constitution at that point. This is after the American Revolution. And America was trying to figure out what to do next, now that they had their own country. The proposed national constitution, written last summer in Philadelphia, is stirring controversy throughout the state. Although it is based on a design developed by Virginians, many state leaders believed the planned government is too strong. It squints toward monarchy, says former Governor Patrick Henry. James Madison, a leading Virginia delegate at Philadelphia, defends the convention's work. He asks, what is government itself but the greatest of all reflections on human nature? If men were angels, he observed, no government would be necessary. So right here, if you go up, it says, although it is based on a design, it squints towards monarchy. It's talking about planned government is too strong. So monarchy is where you have a king or a queen, you have one ruler, and what they say goes, pretty much. And with a democracy like we have now, you have a say-so in the laws. So they were trying to decide when they were making our government, should it be where one person rules or should it be another type of rule? Okay. continuing on. The government of each nation, I'm going to go down this side. The government of each nation has unique characteristics derived from how that nation developed. To carry out their functions, governments are organized in a variety of ways. Most large countries have several different levels of government. These usually include a central or national government, as well as the governments of smaller divisions within the country, such as provinces, states, counties, cities, towns, and villages. So this right here, America is a good example. It says most large countries have several different levels of government. In America, we have our federal government that Obama is control of, but then it refers to smaller divisions. We also have state governments. We have a governor. In Tennessee, our governor is Bill Haslam. And then in the counties of Tennessee, you have mayors. We just elected a new mayor, Megan Barry. And then, so it goes down, down, down. So lots of different levels of government in a big country. Okay. Government systems. And this is one of your answers up here. The relationship between a nation's central government and its smaller governmental divisions can be described as either unitary or federal. And I just put that over here for you. Okay, now you're looking for unitary system. It's right here. Unitary system. A unitary system of government gives all key powers to the national or central government. This does not mean that only one level of government exists. Rather, it means that the central government has the power to create state, provincial, or other local governments and may give them limited sovereignty. Great Britain, Italy, and France developed unitary governments when they emerged from smaller kingdoms. So a unitary system gives all key powers to national or central government. You could just put that right here. All key powers to national or central government. Okay. Federal system. This is going to be number 3. A federal system of government divides the powers of government between the national government and state or provincial governments. Each level of government has sovereignty in some areas. The United States developed a federal system after the 13 colonies became states. So stop there. And number 3, federal system. What is it? Government, how is it different from unitary? Government divides the powers of government between national government and state. So for 3, you could just put power is divided between national government and state governments. Whereas in unitary, it's just national government has all the powers. Okay, continuing. Still under federal system. To begin with, the United States formed a confederacy, a loose union of independent states. When the Confederacy failed to provide an effective national government, the Constitution made the national government supreme while preserving some state government powers. Today, other countries with federal systems include Canada, Switzerland, Mexico, Australia, India, and Russia. So I do believe federal system or confederacy goes here in number 4, and you can just put here the details. What is it? It's a loose union of independent states. Okay, so that goes here. Okay, continuing on. Constitutions and government. Now for this one, I had to read a little bit before I got my answer. It says all governments, constitutions give a plan for organizing and operating the government, so you don't have to write that. Okay, we're going to read, I'm going to read from here down to here, and then we're going to go back and put an answer for constitution. Constitutions and government. A constitution is a plan that provides the rules for government. A constitution serves several major purposes. It sets out ideals that the people bound by the Constitution believe in and share. 2. It establishes the basic structure of government and defines government's powers and duties. 3. It provides the supreme law for the country. Constitutions provide rules that shape the actions of government and politics, much as the rules of basketball define the action in a basketball game. Constitutions may be written or unwritten. However, in most modern states, constitutions are written. The United States Constitution, drawn up in 1787, is the oldest written constitution still serving a nation today. Other nations with written constitutions include France, Kenya, India, Italy, and Switzerland. Great Britain, on the other hand, has an unwritten constitution based on hundreds of years of legislative acts, court decisions, and customs. Okay, so you just need here, constitution. What is a constitution? Plan that provides the rules for government. That's all you need here. Plan that provides the rules for government. Just as you have in a basketball game, you have rules. The government needs rules as well. Okay, now I'm going to read this last paragraph here, and then we'll go back and we'll fill in our constitutional government box here. All governments have a constitution in the sense that they have some plan for organizing and operating the government. In this sense, the People's Republic of China has a constitution. The term constitutional government, however, has a special meaning. It refers to a government in which a constitution has authority to place clearly recognized limits on the powers of those who govern. Thus, constitutional government is limited government. Despite the existence of a written constitution, the People's Republic of China does not have constitutional government. In that country, there are few limits on the power of the government. So, what are you going to put here? A constitutional government refers to government in which a constitution has authority to place clearly recognized limits on the powers of those who govern. You can just write this right here. Constitutional government is limited government. Limited government, that's all. You just need those two words right here. Limited government just means that the government, it has power, supreme power, but it also puts some power into the hands of the people. And it gives the example of China, and how while China does have a constitution, the people there do have a lot less freedom because the government has a stronger hand on what they do. They have more restrictions there. And one example would be that online. They have a lot of restrictions online. A lot of their Twitter and their internet is censored. They can only see certain things, unlike in America where we can watch what we want to watch when we want to watch it and how we want to watch it. They don't have all those freedoms that we do. We have a limited government that gives us a little more freedom. They have a more strict government. Okay, moving on. In number 8, you should say incomplete guides. And what we're going to do, incomplete guides is not like a vocabulary term, so we're going to read through this, and then we're going to go back and see what it is we want to put over here. What is one thing that stands out? What is the incomplete guide? That's what we're looking for. Reading. Constitutions themselves are important, but incomplete guides to how a country is actually governed. They are incomplete for 2 reasons. First, no written constitution by itself can possibly spell out all the laws, customs, and ideas that grow up around the document itself. In the United States, for example, until Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president 4 times, it was custom, rather than law, that no person should be elected president more than twice. Only when the 22nd Amendment went into effect was a president limited by law to 2 elected terms. Second, a constitution does not always reflect the actual practice of government in a country. The People's Republic of China, for example, has a written constitution filled with statements about the basic rights, freedoms, and duties of citizens. Yet, for years, the Chinese government has maintained an extensive police force to spy on Chinese citizens and punish those whose ideas are not acceptable to the state. Although the government relaxed some restrictions in the late 1980s, authorities crushed a pro-democracy movement in 1989. Okay, so incomplete guides is here. And basically the summary of all this just says that yes, it is a written constitution, we get that, but things change. You know, you're not, back in 1789, they didn't know what the world was going to be like. Things change. And ideas and beliefs change, and one written document cannot stand for 200 years. So it's an incomplete guide because it can't know exactly how everything is to be governed for hundreds of years. So if you want to, you can put this first sentence here if you'd like, or give the reasons they're incomplete. They can't possibly spell out the laws and customs, and 2, they don't always reflect the actual practice of government in a country. So you can put those 2 reasons, or you can just put that first sentence here in the incomplete guides section. Okay, now I'm going to go on to a statement of goals. And I put your answer already. Each constitution has a list of goals and purposes for the government to serve. So since I've got that, I'm going to skip it, and we're going to look down here for preamble. So let's go ahead and read. Statement of goals. Most constitutions contain a statement that sets forth the goals and purposes to be served by the government. This statement is usually called the preamble. The preamble to the United States Constitution states the major goals of American government. Boom. Preamble right there. The preamble states the major goals of American government. What is it? It states the major goals. I would put that here for number 10 in your details box. Remember to be using your questions and comments too. What are you thinking right now? Anything? Have you thought maybe about the Chinese stuff? Did that ring a bell? Did maybe want to look more into that? Like, what is restricted? What do they censor? What do they spy on? Get thinking out of the book. Alright, so on the last page, we did the preamble and said that it lists the goals of the American government. Now, if we go ahead and read up here, this is the actual preamble, so we'll read through it. We the people of the United States, that should be familiar to you from 8th grade. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. Preamble to the Constitution 1787. So that is that's about 230 years old, that preamble. And it says the preamble is supposed to be a statement of goals. This is your statement of goals, so let's pick them out. Justice is the first goal. Tranquility, which is peacefulness, is the second goal. Defense is the third goal. Welfare is the fourth goal. Liberty is the fifth goal. Okay, so those, make sure you put those in the preamble down here. Okay, moving on. We should have here a framework for government. So we need to read through this 2 paragraphs and then figure out what goes in this box. A framework for government. The main body of a constitution sets out the plan for government. In federal states, such as the United States, the Constitution also describes the relationship between the national government and state governments. Most written constitutions also describe the procedure for amending or changing the Constitution. The main body of a constitution is usually divided into parts called articles and sections. The United States Constitution has 7 articles containing a total of 21 sections. The French Constitution has 89 articles grouped under 16 titles. The Indian Constitution, the longest in the world, consists of hundreds of articles. Okay, so for our box, three things stood out for me as I was reading. In this first paragraph, it had two ideas. It says, in this first part, it's talking about how the Constitution, which is the framework, tells you the relationship between national and state governments. That's first, the relationship between national and state governments. Second, the procedure for amending the Constitution. So first, down here, national and state government relationship. Second, how to amend the Constitution. And then the third thing, the actual framework of the Constitution is that our Constitution specifically has articles and sections. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, you should have turned your page over on the back. Okay, the highest law. I've done this one for you. I'm going to read through it, and when I finish reading this, we're going to fill out the one for constitutional law. The highest law. Constitutions provide the supreme law for states. The Constitution is usually accepted as a superior, morally binding force. It draws its authority from the people or from special assembly chosen by the people to create the Constitution. Constitutional law involves the interpretation and application of the Constitution. Thus, constitutional law primarily concerns defining the extent and limits of government power and the rights of citizens. This right here, well, these are your two choices for constitutional law. You can put anything between here and here. But what stands out to me the most is this part right here. Define the extent and limits of government power and the rights of citizens. That's what constitutional law is. So that goes there. So let's continue. Politics and government should have been in your number 14 here. And then politics should have been in your number 15 here. And we're going to read through first and second paragraph, and then we'll come back and fill in our boxes. Politics and government. The effort to control or influence the conduct and policies of government is called politics. The Constitution did not prevent the development of politics because politics and government are closely related. In fact, a major political struggle developed over the ratification of the Constitution itself. Within a few years, major political parties played key roles in elections. People are taking part in politics when they join a citizens group protesting higher taxes, or when they meet with the mayor to ask the city to repave the streets in their neighborhood. Legislatures are acting politically when they vote to have government buildings constructed in the districts they represent. No, stop there. We have politics and government, and then we have politics. Politics stands out already. The effort to control or influence the conduct and policies of government. That already, for number 14, you should have put politics and government. And basically, when you have something like that, for the detail, you need to write down what the relationship between these two words is. And this sentence already tells you what the relationship is. It says that politics tries to control government. So I would put that sentence, politics tries to control government, here in number 14. And then for number 15, just put the definition of politics that it gives you. The effort to control or influence the conduct and policies of government. So that's 14 and 15, this first sentence. Okay, now we are on 16, seeking government benefits. And I might have to flip the page in a second. Okay, participation in politics arises because people realize that government has the potential to influence their lives in many ways. Different people make different demands on government. Construction workers may want government to support the building of new highways to create jobs. Conservationists may want the government to spend its money on mass transit and public parks instead. Still, other people who favor lower taxes may want neither the new highways nor more public parks. Okay, I had to flip the page to finish this section. In a large, diverse nation like the United States, there is a continual struggle over what benefits and services government should provide, how much they should cost, and who should pay for them. Through politics, individuals and groups seek to maximize the benefits they get from government while they try to reduce the costs of these benefits. Through politics, people also seek to use government to turn their values and beliefs into public policy. One group, for example, tries to influence government to ban smoking in public places. Other people pressure government not to restrict smoking in any way. So for number 16, you should have written seeking government benefits. And while it gives all these little examples like the smoking, the thing that sticks out to me is right here. Through politics, individuals and groups seek to maximize the benefits they get from government while trying to reduce the costs of these benefits. So for number 16, you could change that to your own words and say people maximize benefits, reduce costs. So maximize benefits, reduce costs of benefits is what individual people try to do in the government. That's number 16. That is people seeking government benefits. Okay, moving on. Number 17. It should be importance of politics. Importance of politics. Through politics, so what you're looking for number 17, what is the importance of politics? What is it? That's going to go in your details. The answer to that question will go into your details. So let's read. Importance of politics. Through politics, conflicts in society are managed. As people seek rewards and benefits, politics provides a peaceful way for them to compete with one another. The outcomes of politics, the struggle to control government, affect such key matters as the quality of air and water, economic conditions, peace and war, and the extent of citizens' rights and freedoms. So this is a basic paragraph. It starts out with your topic sentence. Then it gives 2 details to describe the topic sentence. So you just need to put the topic sentence, which is through politics, conflicts, and society are managed. You can put that for number 17, importance of politics. So if I asked you, what is the importance of politics? You would tell me, conflicts and society are managed. That is how politics is important. Okay, moving on. We're almost getting to the end. Should be on number 18. You should have special interests written in this box. And details. What are special interests? Maybe we're going to answer that question here. Let's read first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read this section. I'm going to read from here all the way to here. And then we're going to come back and we're going to answer both of these right here. Answer 18 and 19. Okay, special interests. The Constitution says that government should promote the general welfare. The framers believed government should operate in the interests of all the people, not favoring any special group or person. One of the issues that concerned the framers of the United States Constitution was the possibility that groups of people, united by special political interests, would hinder the launching of a new government. James Madison explained his concerns in a series of articles called The Federalist. Among the numerous advantages promised by a well-constructed union is its tendency to break and control the violence of faction. By a faction, I understand a number of citizens who are united and actuated or moved by some common impulse of passion or of interest, adverse to the rights of other citizens, or to the permanent and aggregate interests of their community. James Madison, 1787. Some people equate politics with bribery or corruption. They believe the general welfare may be sacrificed to the desires of a special interest group. The misuse of politics, however, should not obscure the value of a political system. Okay, for 18, you have special interests. What are special interests? And if you put something like people that differ from the general welfare, people that want things for themselves that don't necessarily improve the general welfare of all people, that's special interests. And that's all right here. People, special political interests hinder the general welfare of all people. So they could put that for number 18. General or special interests. People who hinder the general welfare of all citizens by trying to get what they want for themselves. Okay, the Federalist. Go back up here. James Madison explained his concerns. His concerns about what? And his concerns about special interest groups. So for the Federalist, you could put series of articles where James Madison explains his concerns about special interest groups. One more time. Series of articles in which James Madison explains his concerns about special interest groups, which another word for that is factions. Here. Okay, moving on. Governing in a complex world. And I've done that for you. Changing relationships between the world's societies challenge every government. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, I'm starting to read. Governing in a complex world. The United States government conducts policy in a complex world. Changing relationships challenge the policies of every nation. It is not easy to define the boundaries of government. So I took that and I put it in my own words. I put it here. Changing relationships between the world's societies challenge every government. Or I just put that sentence. Okay, number 21. You are looking for major inequalities among states. So what are these inequalities is a question you could answer in your details. What are these inequalities? So let's read. Because of great inequalities among countries, the world today is full of contrasts. The United States and about 20 other states, such as Japan, Canada, Australia, and France, are industrialized nations. Industrialized nations have generally large industries and advanced technology that provide a more comfortable way of life than developing nations do. Developing nations are only beginning to develop industrially. More than 100 developing nations have average per capita or per person incomes that are a fraction of those of industrialized nations. In the poorest countries, starvation, disease, and political turmoil are a way of life. Many states of Africa, south of the Sahara, and of Southeast Asia are developing nations. Between these two levels of nations are many newly industrialized nations, such as Mexico, South Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Algeria, and Kenya. So number 21, you were supposed to put major inequalities among states, and then the question maybe you could answer here, what are major inequalities among states? You could just put some are, these are right here. You could put some are industrialized, some are developing. Industrialized is like more first world countries like America. Developing is like third world, African places, places below the Sahara Desert in Africa, Southeast Asia, which the book told you about. Poorer places. So inequality is that some are industrialized, some are developing. Okay, number 22. and 23 we're going to knock out quickly. Number 22, you should have put industrialized nations. It's right here. Industrialized nations have generally large industries and advanced technology provide a more comfortable way of life. Just put that in your own words here for number 22, that sentence. And then number 23, developing nations. Developing nations are only beginning to develop industrially. More than 100 have, developing nations have average per capita incomes, fraction of those of industrialized nations. Poorest countries, starvation, disease, political turmoil. So for number 23, you could put they're just starting to develop. And this part right here, they're poor, you could put that they're poor, they're starving, they have disease, they have political turmoil. Okay. Number 24. Growing interdependence. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read all this, and let's think of a question that you want to be able to answer for your details here. What is growing interdependence? What does interdependence mean? That could be another, let's answer that question. What does interdependence mean? We'll answer that after we read through this section. Okay, growing interdependence. Although each state is sovereign, nations today exist in a world of global interdependence. This means that people and nations must interact or depend upon one another, especially economically and politically. So down here we said, what is global interdependence? Here's your answer. This means people and nations must interact or depend upon one another, especially economically and politically. This sentence right here, put in your own words down here with number 24. I'm going to finish reading. That means we already got our main idea, so all these are probably just going to be examples that expand upon what interdependence is. It also means that what happens in one nation or area of the world affects what happens in other places. Thus, our lives can be directly impacted not only by the decisions of foreign governments, but also by the combined effect of billions of individual choices made by people across the world. Global interdependence is increasing due to growing industrialization and rapid technological advances in manufacturing, transportation, and telecommunications. In communications, the development of the Internet and the World Wide Web is linking billions of people and organizations across the globe. In the near future, half the world's population will have access to the web. This is an old book. This sentence right here is probably improved a lot. I bet more than half the world's population has it by now. Global interdependence is affecting highly developed as well as developing states. Canada, Mexico, and the United States are developing greater economic, political, and social ties through the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, signed in 1993. At the same time, many developing states have become very dependent on the industrialized ones for economic aid, medical supplies and services, financial investment, assistance to cope with natural disasters, and military aid. A great example of this would be the Ebola crisis last year. The Ebola crisis was happening in poorer areas of Africa, and teams from all over the world, teams of doctors, came over to take care of the people there. We gave them we being America and other places, they were given supplies and things like that. And when a natural disaster happens, maybe a tsunami in Indonesia or the Philippines or somewhere that is poorer, the world's leading countries, France, Germany, United States, Britain, they send people and teams to help get those natural disaster damage cleaned up. Alright, now we're almost done. We're on the last one, non-state international groups. And you could think of a question before you even start reading. What are non-state international groups? What are examples of non-state international groups? Whatever question you want to answer there for your details. So you have something to read to read along with. Okay, I'm gonna read. I gotta go to the next page, and I'm just gonna read a few paragraphs, and then we'll answer that. Okay, non-state international groups. Today's world is also home to non-state groups that play a role in international politics. Some of these groups, such as terrorist groups and national liberation organizations, are politically motivated and often use violence to achieve their goals. Multinational corporations and international organizations are aimed at developing economic growth and making profits. Okay, I'm going to stop here. This is your opening paragraph for this topic, which means it's going to lay out everything main that you need to know, and the rest of the stuff on the other page is going to be examples. So we said earlier, for our details, we're going to put what are non-state international groups or examples of non-state international groups. Terrorist groups. That's first one. So first, terrorist groups. Second, national liberation organizations. Third, multinational corporations. Fourth, international organizations. One more time. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4 things that are non-state international groups. 1, terrorist groups. 2, national liberation organizations. 3, multinational corporations. 4, international organizations. So now we're going to read the next page, and it's going to give us, or it should give us, examples of these 4 things that you just wrote. In recent decades, quasi-military organizations that use terrorism to gain their objectives have grown in international influence. Al-Qaeda, the group that staged the September 11, 2011 terrorist strikes against the United States, is one example. Al-Qaeda is composed mostly of Islamic radicals drawn largely from Middle Eastern countries. It operates on a global scale with a large budget, and it holds training centers in a number of countries around the world. Now, I said this book was old. Another example, but bigger than Al-Qaeda now, is ISIS. ISIS. They're doing the same thing Al-Qaeda did, and it's actually almost worse. They have a big budget as well. Okay, continuing. National liberation organizations aim to establish an independent state for a particular ethnic or religious group. The Irish Republican Army is one example of a nationalist organization. The aim of the IRA is to integrate Ireland and Northern Ireland into a single country under one Irish government. The Palestinian Liberation Organization claims to represent all Palestinians struggling to gain territory within the State of Israel as their own national homeland. Multinational corporations are huge companies with offices and factories in many countries. This is like McDonald's. The biggest of these firms have come to be called stateless corporations because they are so international in ownership, management, workforce, and areas of operations that it is impossible to identify them with any single nation. Maybe a question you should put out here is, what are some examples of multinational organizations or corporations? Because it doesn't really give any examples of that. International organizations, such as the World Trade Organization, are composed of many nations working together for common goals. The WTO, for example, seeks to improve economic development around the world. While they do not have political sovereignty, they do carry out their activities on a global scale, selling their products worldwide and entering into agreements with foreign governments. Thus, national corporations influence international politics and the internal decisions of their host countries. Richard Holder, president of Reynolds Metal Company, explained that a global company is one that operates as a worldwide integrated system in which all operations wherever they may be, are interdependent in terms of operations and strategies. Every decision is considered in the light of a worldwide system. Richard Holder, October 1989. General Motors, American Telephone and Telegraph, Unilever and Nabisco, British Petroleum, Royal Dutch Shell, Mitsubishi, and Sony are examples of global corporations that have attained worldwide economic importance. Finally, the modern world includes many international organizations. These groups range from the United Nations to more specialized organizations, such as the International Sugar Council and the Universal Postal Union. These organizations undertake a wide variety of tasks, often to serve the needs of member states. The World Meteorological Organization, for example, facilitates the exchange of weather information among states. Okay, so let's see. You should be finished with both of these pages. Now, remember that the point of this lesson was to teach you note-taking skills. Just to skim the section, to prepare your main ideas. What are you looking for? And then to the details, just little bitty details about each thing. You don't have to do a bunch of stuff. And what you'll notice, right now we are doing every little thing. We're doing all the headings and all the words. But when you get out of this class into other classes a few years down the road, you'll be able to decipher what is important and what's not important, what words you should be looking for, what words you should not be looking for. So don't think that every time you read a section you have to do all of this. This is just to teach you the basic structure. We're going to do this for 2 more sections, and then the next chapter we're going to do a different skill. So this is your note-taking skills. Now, before you forget, don't forget your questions and comments. Make sure that you have some stuff in here. Okay, with that said, I thank you for sticking with me on this long presentation, this long activity. Hopefully you got it all filled in, and hopefully you learned a few things that you didn't know before. Okay, well, have a good day, and turn this in to me when you are done.